elements of the season. You're welcome to the Gavel. I'm Linda Akibi. The National Assembly has gone on recess to mark the Christmas and the New Year celebrations. But before federal lawmakers went on break, the leadership of the National Assembly met with the Conference of Speakers of the State Houses of Assembly. The speakers came to the National Assembly to submit the amendment of the 1999 Constitution to the Senate and the House of Representatives. The transmission of the constitutional amendment by the Conference of Speakers to the National Assembly is a crucial step in the amendment process, as the State Houses of Assembly have to vote on the various areas up for amendment in the 1999 Constitution. Watch. Another critical step to the amendment of the 1999 Constitution has just been made. After nearly 2 months, state legislators are here to submit to the National Assembly the resolutions approved by the State Houses of Assembly on the areas up for amendment in the 1999 Constitution.
The bill you are transmitting today is a culmination of the will of people of Nigeria. The legislature has long recognized that to secure the future of Nigeria, it must produce a constitution that will meet the aspirations and needs of Nigerians, and that which will facilitate national development in an equitable manner. Durability of constitutions depends on public support, as citizens and public are less inclined to support a constitution without their input. There is no doubt that broad citizen participation, which was the mainstay of the review process, has added value to the democratic process and improved the quality of governance. It can be gleaned from the resolutions you are transmitting today to the National Assembly that the amendments set out institutional and legal reforms, which together with sufficient political will may help to provide for constitutional and other legal guarantees for the practice of true federalism, provide for accountability and transparency in governance, and create an independent judiciary that would ensure the proper administration of peace and justice in Nigeria.
We had made a commitment to Nigerian people to further alter the provisions of the 1999 Constitution in a more holistic manner than the previous efforts, which touched only a few provisions. If we recall the origin of the Constitution, we will acknowledge that it lacks a more direct participation of Nigerians in its making. We made efforts this time to involve all Nigerians. The National Assembly took the approach of incremental alterations of the provisions of the Constitution in such a manner that would eventually bring about a wholesale alteration and review of the Constitution without unduly upsetting the governance structure of our country. This we did with the proposal for the amendment or alteration of 57 sections and 7 schedules of the Constitution. Following the adoption of the bill, the National Assembly, on 28 October 2014, transmitted the bill to the Conference of Speakers of State Legislature in accordance with Section 9 of the Constitution. It is happening that the Houses of Assembly of the States concluded the work on the bill in less than 2 months and are transmitting their resolution to the National Assembly today, indicating the views of their states on the items for amendment proposed by the National Assembly. The National Assembly will further collect the votes on each of the sections of the bill and determine which of them attains the constitutionally required 2/3 votes for passage, which in practice means that 24 out of 36 State Houses of Assembly shall have voted yes on each section for it to be adjudged as having passed. We shall carry out this final exercise with dispatch, particularly given the limited time in the life of the current Assembly.
The Chairman, Conference of Speakers of the State Houses of Assembly, gave details of some of the resolutions passed by the State Houses of Assembly.
Mr. President, respected members of the National Assembly, let me announce that we have exceeded the requirement for the financial autonomy of state legislatures. We have also exceeded the required 2/3 for the strengthening of other institutions sought for, such as splitting of the Office of Attorney General from that of the Minister of Justice, creation of Accountant General of Federal Government Office, and strengthening of the laws passed by the legislature, as well as resolutions, amongst other things, actions we have agreed to, as will be seen when this submission is analyzed. Again, let me thank all that made inputs for the success of this exercise. Mr. President, we are hopeful that the outcomes will give Nigerians confidence that our future is sure. We again thank you, members of the National Assembly, for initiating and seeing to the end of this process. We have done our bit. We have stood on the side of the people and on the side of deepening our democracy, and posterity will judge us kindly.
But the Chairman, Conference of Speakers, was silent on whether the State Houses of Assembly granted autonomy to local governments. The Senate and the House of Representatives had approved autonomy for local governments.
I have not read the areas where you have gotten more than the required percentage, that is 24 states approving, so I can't make any comment on it, but the Speaker of Akwa Ibom State said that that the one of state legislature has passed the required test, in other words, autonomy, financial autonomy of the state legislature. So I think that that was one of the areas where, in the First Amendment, the state assemblies didn't have the courage to do it. But I must congratulate you because that is very key. One of the other areas which I think we asked you to approve was local government autonomy. I don't know whether you've had the courage to do that, but if you haven't had it, there is no problem with it. It's a continuous exercise. I was talking to the incoming governor of Imo State, and I said, well, if that is not passed, he should be rest assured that we will pass it.
The National Assembly would now have to pass the Constitution Amendment Bill and send to President Jonathan for assent. A very interesting bill was brought up on the floor of the Senate before federal lawmakers went on break. And that bill was for the amendment of the Niger Delta Development Commission Act by recognizing Anambra State as an oil-producing state. Now let's find out what happened when that bill was brought up on the floor of the Senate.
The bill to amend the Niger Delta Development Commission Act to include Anambra State into the group of oil-producing states was bound to elicit strong emotions from lawmakers in the Senate. The sponsor of the bill, Senator Andy Uba, explained that his reason for sponsoring the amendment of the bill was a result of the declaration made by President Jonathan that Anambra State had joined the League of Oil-Producing States in the country.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, as already indicated, Anambra has joined the oil-bearing states of Delta, Bayelsa, Rivers, Cross River, Akwa Ibom, Imo, Edo, Ondo states as home to the nation's oil installations and a rich wetland. These communities account for 93% of the country's export earnings and provide the economic lifeline that sustains the Nigerian state, and as a result of which this amendment is being sought for Anambra to be a part and parcel of the Niger Delta Development Commission.
However, some senators who made contributions on the floor opposed the bill.
If this Senate sit down here now and declare Anambra oil producing state, he has predicted what will happen. In fact, the disaster that will happen in Kogi and Anambra State is unimaginable. I therefore suggest that this bill should not be subject of any debate. They should withdraw it until the issue of ownership is clearly defined.
Everybody wants to be a member of NDDs, everyone wants to earn 13% derivation or whatever, but I think we ought to earn it in a manner that will avoid acrimony and bloodletting, because the little pronouncement and some of the activities of Orient Oil had led to the death of a lot of people in my Central District and his Central District.
The Deputy Senate President and the Senate President suggested that the bill be withdrawn and amendments made.
If we get all the facts and you incorporate it in your bill, it will be helpful. Because at the moment, everybody is making claims, and you don't have any facts to back up whatever you've said. So I think if I put the question now, this bill will just die. And I don't want the bill, I want the bill to be alive, but let it come when we have all the facts. The mere fact that there is a presidential committee headed by the vice president is enough for us to wait for the outcome of the report from that committee.